You're watching Let the Qur'an Speak. Now we answer questions from viewers. If you have a question, visit our website, QuranSpeaks.com. Dr. Shabir, the question is it really bad to have dogs at home? What if it helps my autistic son? How do you answer that question, Dr. Shabir?
Yeah, let's start with the exception, right? So autistic son, then naturally, whatever can be used to help the autistic child, I think that will be an exception to whatever rule we're going to discuss because, there are different grades and types of autism. And, generally we know that, the autistic children would need some special care. If there's something that they find comfort in, then naturally that would be an exception to whatever we're going to discuss now. So as for the general idea that dogs are prohibited in the Islamic tradition, that needs to be broken down into steps. What generally has been frowned upon in the Islamic tradition is the saliva of the dog. It is thought that the saliva is impure. And it is thought to be so impure that if the saliva of a dog were to get onto your clothing, you'd have to wash that piece of clothing 7 times, according to one tradition. And then one of the times has to be by applying earth onto it. So why earth? Because in the Islamic tradition, the earth is thought to be pure. Now, we're not talking about clean versus dirty, children go playing at the park and they come back and they bring the dirt in for mom to wash, right? But we're not talking about that kind of dirt. We're talking about impurities. In the Islamic tradition would differentiate between, being ready for prayer and being not ready for prayer. So a farmer, by definition, might be working in the field and have mud on their clothing. They can still pray. They don't have impurities on their clothing. Impurities would be things like defecations and, extracts, excrements and so on. The saliva of the dog is thought to be of this ritual impurity type of classification. So that means then while you can pray with dirt on your clothing, you shouldn't, but if you did, the prayer would still be valid. But the saliva of the dog is thought to be impure. It would render the prayer itself invalid. So you would have to wash it off. And why with the earth? Because the earth is thought to be pure for ritual purposes. Now, of course, one might want to know more about this, why is the dog in particular so impure? Because there are other animals which are forbidden for Muslims to eat. Pig, for example, is thought to be impure, but nothing like this is said about the saliva of the pig. Why in particular about the dog? So Muslim scholars have tried to rationalize this over time, and they've tried to understand, how does this get explained rationally, and how does it fit in with whatever else we know about the Qur'an and about the life example of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So starting with the Qur'an, we know that the Qur'an mentions dogs, but in a positive way. For example, in Surah Al-Kahf, وَكَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ ذِرَاعَيْهِ بِالْوَصِيدِ, and their dog was there stretching out its paws at the threshold of the cave. So there, apparently, the dog is guarding the companions of the cave, and he's one of them. So this is a noble mention of the dog. And then in the 5th chapter of the Quran, there is a mention of hunting dogs. They go out and they hunt on your behalf. Now, if the saliva of the dog was impure, from the Quranic perspective, one would be at pains to explain how the saliva of the dog gets intermingled with the meat, because the dog, to capture the prey for you, would naturally sink its canines into the meat. And with the canines sinking into the meat, naturally some saliva would be mingled there. You can try to wash it off, but if it's so impure, then you can feel that there is some kind of distaste for this from the Muslim point of view. And at least some mention of that might be expected from the Quran, but nothing like that in the Quran. In addition to that, we know that there are reports showing that, according to Khalid Abul Fadl, in an article that he wrote for an encyclopedia, and was published in an encyclopedia, he pointed out that there are indications that some of the Prophet's cousins own dogs, and some other companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, own dogs as well. Dogs were running about freely in the city of Medina, the Prophet's city, and they even came into the mosque. Obviously, the mosques did not have locked doors as we have them now, and so, it was easy. If the dogs are in the streets, they will naturally pass through the mosque. So might it have been possible that At the time, there were some cases of rabies, and as a precaution, people were dissuaded from owning dogs, from keeping dogs, from getting close to dogs, and they were, advised to avoid having dogs lick them. And if they were licked, by a dog, then probably some exaggerated means were employed to be absolutely sure that we would not contract any disease as a result. And that has gotten built into the Islamic tradition because scholars tended to say, okay, it's written like that, just take it like that. That's the rule, no further rationalization necessary.
Yes, and then the hadith come as snippets, right? Like 1 sentence, 2 sentences, at most like a paragraph or something like that. Most of them, right?
Yes.
So you don't get the context. You don't understand, okay, was this a command for all times, or was a specific situation that the Prophet told people to do something? You have no idea, right?
Yeah. So there are these ambiguities. So for putting this all together, I wouldn't say, okay, let Muslims go out now and start owning dogs willy-nilly. That's the tradition. That's how it is. Let's respect it and abide by it as much as we can. But in the case of the autistic child, naturally, that would be an exception, even if we said that a Muslim should not own a dog or, have a dog you could own a dog and have them, in their kennel outside of the house. But if
not in Canada, though. It would be too cold for that.
Yes, you're right. But the crucial thing for the Muslim scholars is that you shouldn't have the dog in your home because the saliva of the dog is impure. But even if we said that is the case, we would make the exception for the autistic child.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Qur'an Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiya and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.